They said the border planets were secure. They said no enemy had crossed into human space for decades, but they were wrong. So very wrong. Lieutenant Cade Mercer had been stationed on the cold moon of Elian 4 for 6 months. A silent, frozen outpost that saw more snow than sunlight. It was supposed to be a low-risk assignment. But everything changed the night the sky turned red. A distress signal crackled through the comm system. At first, Cade thought it was static, but then came a voice. Soft, broken, and desperate. Not human, not one of theirs. The transmission was an alien dialect, but it was clear. Someone was begging for help. Protocol demanded he report it. Orders were strict, no engagement with unverified alien signals. But Cade had heard too much pain in that voice. Too much fear. He couldn't ignore it. He traced the signal through the mountain range east of their station. Dense terrain, hostile weather. Still, he took a scout flyer alone and went into the storm. What he found there would rewrite his life forever. She was lying in the snow, surrounded by wreckage. Her skin glowed faint blue. Her eyes fluttered open, and even in pain, they looked like burning gold. She was not human. And yet, she looked at him with the same fear a human would. Her name was Sail. She was wounded, frostbitten, and barely conscious. Cade didn't hesitate. He lifted her into his coat and activated the med drones. He knew it was treason to bring her back. But he did it anyway. The medics protested. Command questioned him. But he lied. Said she was a survivor from a human-aligned ship. Said her appearance was due to genetic enhancements. It bought him time. In secret, he cared for her. Her wounds healed slowly. She barely spoke at first. But every time their eyes met, something unspoken passed between them. She wasn't just some enemy species. She was someone. Within days, he learned her ship had been fleeing a rogue faction exiles from her own kind. They had shot her down. She hadn't come to invade. She had come seeking asylum. Still, when Command found out the truth, everything exploded. He was dragged into custody, shackled, interrogated, court-martialed for disobeying orders and endangering the base, but Cade didn't regret it, not for a second. He stared down the tribunal with defiance. He had saved a life. Not just a lifer. Sail burst into the courtroom when she learned what was happening. Her presence stunned the officers. She stood proudly beside him. She swore allegiance to the Human Alliance. Said she owed her life to Cade Mercer. The tribunal froze. The news spread. Hollis and feeds across the galaxy picked up the event. A human soldier who defied protocol to save an alien woman. It became a symbol. Instead of punishment, Cade was given a choice. They would exile him or honor him. Sail made it easier. She asked for him, not as a savior, as something else. He stepped forward, stunned when she spoke the words. In her culture, to risk one's life to protect another was an ancient sign of bonding. Not romantic at first, but sacred. Binding, he looked at her. Then at the brass officers watching. He said yes, and just like that, a court-martial turned into a wedding ceremony. A moment that history would never forget. Asterisk, the galaxy didn't welcome their union with open arms. Cade and Sail became the center of attention overnight. Every major channel, newswave, and political desk picked apart their bond. Some called it betrayal, others called it hope. But none could ignore the storm it caused. After the ceremony, they were not given time to breathe. No peace, no break. They were escorted by security ships to Earth's capital moon station for investigation by the Intergalactic Peace Council. Sail remained calm during the journey. Her eyes glowed softly, but Cade could feel the tension beneath her skin. She was holding back the fear, the confusion, and something else, something she hadn't said yet. Cade sat beside her in the shuttle's cabin. Stars drifted outside like falling sparks. Neither of them spoke for minutes. When he finally reached out to hold her hand, she flinched. I didn't tell them everything, she whispered. His fingers tightened around hers without force. What? Didn't you tell them? She looked down. Her voice dropped lower. My pursuers weren't just exiles. They were sent by the High Council of my world. I was never supposed to leave. I ran because I knew what they were planning. They want war, Cade. Real war. And now they know where I am. His heart sank. Not because she lied, but because her truth was even worse. The shuttle touched down on the capital moon's bright surface. Council agents were already waiting. Dressed in gold-trimmed uniforms, they wore expressions of polite suspicion. Sale was taken in for separate questioning. Cade demanded to be with her. They refused. He nearly fought them on the spot, but Sale gave him one look and he stopped. Hours passed. When she came out, her face was pale. But not from fear. From anger. They're not just questioning me. They're preparing for my people's arrival. They expect an attack. And they're willing to use me as a warning if needed. Cade knew then honor would not be enough. Not here. Not now. If war was coming, he had to stop it before it reached them. Before they used her as a spark, he left the council building and made contact with an old friend, Captain Maller, a rogue pilot and smuggler who owed Cade his life. Maller could get them anywhere, even across enemy lines. I want to go back, Sale said firmly that night. To your world? Cade asked. Yes, there's someone I need to speak with. Someone who might still listen to reason. If we reach him, there's a chance we can stop what's coming. But I can't do it without you. Cade looked into her eyes. They no longer belong to a lost alien girl. They belong to a warrior, a leader. And he knew what he had to do. They vanished. Before sunrise, slipped past council guards, disguised, hidden, Maller's ship. The Black Echo hummed in the dark as they raced away from the moon. Stars stretched into ribbons around them. They were fugitives now, but Cade didn't feel like a traitor. He felt like a man who had found his mission. The journey ahead would take them across forbidden space and into the heart of her world's deepest politics. One misstep, and both of them would die. Still, as she stood beside him in the cockpit, he knew he would rather fall with her than live without purpose. The galaxy might call him a fool, but she called him by name, and to Cade, that meant everything. Asterisk. The Black Echo pierced through the void, silent and swift. Inside the ship, Sale sat in the shadows near the viewport. Her eyes were locked on the stars, but her mind was far beyond them. She hadn't slept in 2 days. Neither had Cade. Their destination was Kareth Tal, her homeworld, a place of twin suns, silver skies, and now growing unrest. The one she hoped to reach there was her blood brother, Viren, a commander in the High Guard, and the only one who had once questioned the Council's thirst for war. He won't trust me, she said quietly. Cade was beside her, fixing his armor. He'll trust your truth. And if not, I'll make him listen. Sale turned her eyes to him, softening. You always say things like that. Like your will is enough to bend worlds. He smiled, but only briefly. Because sometimes it is. As they approached Kareth Tal's orbit, the ship received no welcome signal. Only static and one warning. Beacon blinking in red. Maller turned in his chair. This planet's locked tight. If we drop below their radar net, we've got one chance to land without being atomized. One? Are you both sure? Cade nodded without pause. Sale followed, her voice steady. We're sure. The descent was sharp. Violent winds lashed the hull. Defense towers tracked them from a distance, but Maller dipped into the canyon line just in time. Smoke burst from the ship's wing, but they landed in one piece. They stepped out into the alien landscape. Giant crystal ridges shone in the dim red light. Strange birds cried overhead. The place was breathtaking and ready for war. Disguised in local cloaks, Sale led the way through narrow canyons and hidden tunnels. The journey to the capital city on foot took hours. They moved without rest. By nightfall, They reached the outer wall of Myroka, the stronghold of the High Guard. Cade scanned the battlements. He spotted at least 50 patrols, motion scanners, and aerial drones. "This is a fortress, not a city," he whispered. Sale nodded grimly. "They've already begun preparing for war. If we're caught, they won't ask questions. They'll execute you for stepping on this soil." Still, she knew a secret path through the old aqueducts. Viren had once shown it to her when they were children. She hoped he hadn't forgotten. They slipped through the hidden tunnels, silent as shadows. The deeper they went, the colder it became. Moss clung to the walls, and the only sound was the drip of ancient water. At the end of the path stood a gate of bone metal and sigils. Beyond it, the private quarters of the commander. They waited until the guard rotated, then moved inside. The chamber was still. Torches flickered on crystal walls. Viren stood near a balcony, armored and grim, gazing out into the darkness. He turned slowly, and when he saw her, his eyes widened with something between shock and pain. "Sale?" Before she could speak, 10 guards burst through the doorway. With weapons drawn, Cade stepped in front of her, blaster raised, but Viren raised his hand. "Stand down. Let them speak." They were given only minutes. Sale explained everything. The Council's lies, the false pursuit, the human alliances, peaceful stance, and Cade's sacrifice. Viren listened in silence. When she finished, he spoke only one line: "I believe you." But belief is not enough to stop what has already begun. Cade stepped forward. "Then help us do more than believe. Help us fight it." Viren looked at both of them. Then at the night beyond his tower. For the first time in years, the commander hesitated. Viren dismissed his guards with a sharp gesture. They obeyed without question, vanishing into the shadowed hall. When the heavy doors sealed shut again, silence filled the chamber. Only the wind from the balcony stirred Sale's hair. "You shouldn't have come back," Viren said at last. "I had to," Sale replied. "You're the only one who can stop this from turning into genocide." Viren stepped closer, looking at her as if seeing a ghost. "The Council is not what it once was. You were right to flee, but their grip has tightened. Anyone who questions them is silenced. Or worse, Cade's voice was calm but firm. Then let's shake that grip. We're not here to beg. We're here to fight back." "But we can't do it alone." Viren studied him, eyes narrowing. A human with fire in his chest. "No wonder she chose you." He turned to a cabinet embedded in the stone wall and removed a hidden device. It pulsed faintly in his palm. "This is a secure relay. It connects to a network of loyalists still hidden within the military. If I activate it, we declare open rebellion. Are you ready for what comes after?" Cade didn't blink. "We were ready the moment we risked everything to get here." Viren placed the relay on the table between them. Then he pressed his thumb to it. The device lit up blue. "We have 6 hours before they detect the signal. That's how long we have to plan. After that, everything changes." They gathered around a holomap of the city. Viren pointed out critical weak spots in the Council's communication towers. If they could disable the grid, it would delay reinforcements and give the Loyalists a fighting chance. "We strike at dawn," Viren said. "Our people need to see that Sale lives, that she stands with a human. It will send a message stronger than words." Cade and Sale were given a chamber to rest, but neither slept. Cade stood by the window, watching the moonlight pass over the walls. Sale sat behind him, silent. "I never wanted war," she said softly, "but I will fight now. For them. For you." Cade turned and kneeled beside her. "We're not fighting for war. We're fighting for peace. A real one." She leaned against his shoulder, and for the first time since their escape, her breathing calmed. As morning approached, the city stirred with unease. Loyalist fighters moved in secret through tunnels and courtyards. The air felt charged, like the world itself held its breath. Cade secured his armor. Sail strapped on a curved blade passed down through her family. Viren met them in the hall. His eyes colder than before. "There's no turning back now," he said. Cade placed a hand on Sail's shoulder. There never was. They split into 3 teams. Cade led the strike on the northern tower. Sail and Viren took the central hub. If they succeeded, the capital would go dark. Cade moved through the alleys with 3 loyalists behind him. Drones scanned the skies, but they moved like ghosts beneath the rooftops. When they reached the tower's base, the guards were already waiting. Blasters fired in bursts. Smoke rose. Cade surged forward, unshaken, cutting through resistance with surgical precision. He didn't fight to win glory. He fought to keep her world alive. The others followed his lead. They reached the control core and planted the disruptor. Charge! Cade pressed the trigger. The tower's lights blinked once and died. Asterisk. The tower's blackout triggered chaos in the capital. Sirens wailed. But they were meaningless without a grid to control them. Council forces scrambled for orders that never came. Within minutes, the city's defenders were blind and fractured. Viren's voice crackled over the community. Central hub secured, moving toward the chamber steps. Sail is unharmed. Cade's team slipped away from the smoke. They joined with another squad at the eastern wall. All across the city, banners once hidden now flew openly. Viren's crest, the mark of resistance. For the first time, the people of Myrulka stepped out of their homes and saw a different path. A new hope began to spark behind their eyes, but the council wasn't done. High above the city, a black cruiser descended from the sky. It was shaped like a blade, silent and full of death. This was the Judicator's ship, the personal vessel of the one who had issued Sail's death order. "Cade, we have a problem." Sail's voice came through, steady but strained. "They're here, the one I feared the most. The Judicator is on the ground." Cade cursed under his breath, gripping his weapon tighter. "Then we end this now." He regrouped with Viren and Sail near the council tower steps. The structure loomed like a fang against the morning sun. Around them, rebels secured the perimeter, but all eyes turned to the sky as the cruiser docked. From it emerged a tall figure clad in obsidian armor. No visible face. No insignia. Just a voice like thunder. "You have betrayed your blood, Sail of the line of Taina. You bring a human here and demand peace. You will find only judgment." Sail stepped forward without hesitation. Her voice rang out across the plaza. "I bring the truth. The people have seen it. You no longer control them." The Judicator raised his arm. A weapon unfolded from his wrist. It glowed with the heat of 1,000 suns. But before he could fire, Cade moved. He launched forward with speed born of fury and purpose. Blaster fire rang out. The weapon missed its mark. The Judicator turned. Too slow. Cade struck with full force, slamming into the armored figure. They tumbled down the stone steps, locked in brutal combat. Steel against steel. Will against domination. Around them, chaos exploded. Loyalists and rebels clashed. Smoke choked the courtyard. Screams filled the air, but Sail did not stand back. She charged after them, blade drawn. As Cade blocked another strike from the Judicator's weapon, she moved in from the side. Her blade found a gap in the armor. With a flash of light, the Judicator dropped to one knee. Cade grabbed Sail's hand and pulled her back. The crowd had gathered. They saw the impossible. The one who had ruled by fear was broken on the ground. Viren raised his fist. "No more tyranny. This is our world. And today it is free." The courtyard echoed with cheers. Not just from the rebels, but from the people. The silent majority who had watched in fear now stood with courage. The council tower's doors swung open. One by one, the remaining elders stepped out. They raised no weapons. Their faces showed defeat. Sail and Cade walked up the steps together. Not as fugitives, not as soldiers. As leaders, the elders were silent as Sale and Cade climbed the final steps. Behind them, the city trembled with the sound of new voices rising. The people were no longer watching from behind windows. They were stepping out, filling the courtyards, standing shoulder to shoulder with the rebels. The High Council chamber, once cold and filled with judgment, now stood exposed to daylight. Light poured through the cracked domes, revealing the wear of years hidden in arrogance. Viren took his place at Sale's right. The elders watched him, wary and unsure. He met their eyes with calm defiance. "You knew what the council was planning," Sale said to them. "You allowed it to grow. You hunted your own. Now the people know the truth." One elder stepped forward. His voice was tired. "We acted to protect our world. We feared the humans would bring corruption and war. We believed we were doing what was right." Cade looked him straight in the eyes. "Fear is not justice. You judged without knowing us. You nearly started a war based on lies." The elder bowed his head. "Then judge us now. If that is the will of the people, we will not resist." Sale did not raise her weapon. Instead, she turned to the crowd below. "There will be no executions, no vengeance. We rebuild." Together, the people cheered. Not in hunger for punishment, but in relief, in hope. A new era had begun. That night, the rebels and civilians joined in the streets. Fires burned not with war, but celebration. Music played from ancient instruments long hidden away. Children danced where soldiers once marched. Cade stood at a balcony, watching it all. Sale joined him, wearing a ceremonial cloak lined with silver. Her eyes were bright, her scars fading. "Into grace. I thought I'd lose everything the day I saved you," he said quietly. "You lost the chains that held you," she replied. "And in doing so, you gave me back my world." She took his hand in hers. "But there's one more thing we must do." Cade raised an eyebrow. "More battles?" She smiled softly. "No, a promise." The great hall was lit with lanterns as Sale and Cade walked down the center aisle. Warriors, elders, rebels, and citizens stood in silence. The air held no tension, only reverence. At the center stood Viren, cloaked in ceremonial armor. He raised a blade between them, the traditional sign of the vow, by bond of sacrifice, by risk of heart and soul. "Let these two be joined in unity, beyond world or species," he said. They did not need to speak. Their eyes told the story. As the blade lowered, the hall erupted in thunderous cheers. In one lifetime, Cade had gone. From soldier to traitor, from prisoner to hero, and now husband to the woman he once rescued from death. The stars outside burned brighter that night. Months passed, but the memory of that day never faded from Cade's mind. Peace had not come easily, but it had come. With the council disbanded and Viren leading a transitional alliance, Sale's world was no longer preparing for war. It was learning how to live without it. The people began rebuilding the cities. Soldiers laid down weapons to pick up tools. Borders were open to diplomatic envoys from Earth and other human colonies. Trust came slowly, but it came. Sale worked tirelessly, acting as the voice between two civilizations. Where others stumbled in fear or doubt, she stood firm, calm, and unshaken. She was no longer a fugitive or a lost daughter. She was now a leader. Cade remained by her side through it all. He trained young peacekeepers, taught them the mistakes of war, and the value of standing for what was right, even when it cost everything. Their home overlooked the valley where the first battle had nearly begun. Now it was covered in green, the scars of fire replaced with gardens and laughter. What was once the edge of destruction was now the heart of renewal. One morning, as the suns rose behind the crystal peaks, Sale stood barefoot in the field, her cloak brushing the grass. Cade approached, holding a small object in his hand. It was an old medal, tarnished, earned in a war that never came to pass. He offered it to her. I was given this for loyalty to the military, he said. But I think it belongs to someone who showed me what real loyalty means. Sale smiled and took the medal gently. Then we share it, because neither of us would have made it alone. News of their bond, their stand, and their unity had traveled far beyond Kareth Tal. Across galaxies, humans and alien worlds had begun speaking differently. Not just as strangers, but as possible allies. What began with disobedience had become a symbol of something greater. A single human choosing compassion over protocol had changed the course of history. That evening, as they stood together under a glowing sky, a new message arrived from Earth's Central Council. A formal invitation had been sent, requesting their presence for the first official alliance treaty between their worlds. Sale looked to Cade. Are you ready to return? He nodded slowly. Yes, but this time, we go not as a soldier and a refugee. We go as one voice. They stepped forward together, no longer bound by orders, nations, or species. They were bound by choice, by honor, and by the fire they carried together. And in that moment, the stars above them didn't seem so far away.